Good morning, Flosstube. My name is Laura, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel, Stitching by the Shore. I want to thank everybody who showed up for my very first Flosstube last week, for those who watched the video, for subscribing, for commenting. Your comments made my day. Your kindness was just lovely, and I can't tell you how much I really appreciated it. And you made me feel wonderful, and so I'm back for Flosstube number 2. So thank you if you've come back to watch again. In the video, I asked a few questions and Stitchers came to the rescue immediately. So I wanted to thank a couple people. First off was Jo. I want to thank her for suggesting a place that I could find the word plays by Brenda Gervais. Gervais? I'm not sure. Let me know how to say her name right so I can pronounce it correctly. She recommended countrystitchesonline.com. And I went on there. I went through all of them to decide what I wanted. I've got my little wish list set. I have been looking at the market pre-releases, so I have a long wish list from there too. So I'm not sure when I'm gonna order, what I'm gonna order, but they are definitely on the list. And thank you, Jo, for giving me that suggestion. And Jo herself has a Flosstube station, which I will link down below in the description section if you want to check her out. The second person I want to thank was Cheryl. When I was showing you my wordplay, I was talking about what color to use for their faces because the DMC conversion was very peachy and I didn't really care for it. And Cheryl recommended Lord Lebidian website. I Googled it on there, Skin Tones DMC, and it is fantastic. It is a chart of multiple skin tones and different options for shading and everything else. So if you are looking for a DMC chart for skin tones, I would highly recommend this. I wrote down all the colors and then promptly forgot to bring the list to Joann's when I went this weekend for their DMC sale. So that is on my list of DMCs to look for next time I go shopping. But I wanted to thank you, Cheryl. That was great, and that really helped me out a lot. Now, on to stitching. I decided that I have so few finishes from 2019 that maybe each of the first few videos, because it's not going to take long, I would show you a 2019 finish. And then hopefully once those are done, I'll have more finishes for 2020 as I go along. It's not a fully finished object. I haven't gotten to doing any FFOs yet. But this one is a simple project that was done on 14 count Ada, so I think this will be the first attempt at an FFO because if I mess it up, it's not the end of the world. This pattern is a simple pattern that I found in this book, Whimsical Cross Stitch by Carrie Buziak. I found this on Amazon after somebody recommended it in one of the Facebook groups I was on. It is super cute. They really are whimsical patterns. They're mostly small, pretty simple. So this would actually be great if you were a beginner, just starting cross stitch. I don't know if there's any specialty stitches. I think it's just straight X's. Some of the patterns do have back stitch, not all of them. The one I did not. So even that is minimal. You could certainly try a pattern without the back stitch and just see if you like the cross stitch part of it. This, it was out of stock at one point on Amazon, but I just stuck it on my wish list. And if you periodically check when it comes back in, it'll show that it's available. So I had started, when did I start? Kind of in the fall, around the fall. So when back to stitching that is, when I was looking for a pattern, I went with one that was more fall-like. And I'm trying not to show the pattern here because with all the pictures, the patterns are right there. So I went with this pumpkin. I did not do the leaves. I have no idea why, but I did do the outline around the pumpkin. I pulled out my 30-year-old 14 count white Ada. Boy, those tubes keep it in really good shape, I'll tell you that. And I stitched it up using the called for DMC colors. I wasn't gonna do this outline. And then I think I was spacing out and I started stitching it and I said, you know what, I'll just keep stitching it. And there is, if you'll notice, and I didn't notice this till it was done, this side of the pumpkin is a tiny bit closer to the outline than this side. But honestly, if I'm looking at it from a distance, I don't think I'll even notice. So like I said, I think this will be my first attempt at an FFO because I didn't spend a lot of time on it, and I had used fabric that I already had. So if it's a little messed up or I make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. It hasn't been something that I spent a ton of time on. So I think that's the plan for that. I do have a finish for 2020. One of the pieces I showed you last video, I worked on and worked on and worked on, and so I could get a finish and have a finish. It's the Country Cottage Needleworks Welcome Home. This is on 18 count very light pewter, and it's all the DMC colors that were called for. So that's that. It is 99.9% finished. If you'll notice, these little guys, the ladybugs, they are supposed to have French knots on them for their little spots. One thing I do remember from 30 years ago was I hated French knots. I would attempt them and they would look like these little blobs of something, but they certainly didn't look like a knot that made any sense. I have seen that some people have talked about colonial knots. If you have a good YouTube video to watch that I could watch to see how to do those, please link it below because I would love to watch it. I'm also thinking, I know they're ladybugs. Do they really need those spots? I'm not really sure they do. So they may just end up without any French knots and just have no spots on them. We'll see. But that is my finish, and I'm super excited that I got something done from last video stitching. I did work on some of my whips, so I have some progress to show on those, and a couple whips I put to the side, and I might have had a few starts. So the first whip that I worked on was from Plum Street Samplers, A Country Winter. I love this. I had trouble with this one. I started stitching it, and I had, at the time with the whip, I had this much about done. And I was continuing doing down here, and I just wasn't feeling it at all. And so I decided to scratch that and to finish the outline. And that was the best thing I could do, the best idea I had. I worked on the outline, got it done, and then it gave me the motivation to even start some of the other pieces and motifs in there. So I am definitely back on track with this one and feeling good. And I feel like this is a finishable project without a ton of extra time. So hopefully this could be my next finish. Then I worked on Comfort Lighthouse from Carriage House Samplings. Now, if you remember, I just had the start of the very tippy top of the lighthouse done, and I decided for myself to just get the lighthouse done. So I feel like I had accomplished something. This is stitched on 18 count Confederate gray, and those are the DMC colors. And with the motivation and the goal of finishing the lighthouse, I was able to get it done and feel good about a stopping point and still be motivated to stitch. So I think that's what I'm going to do with this one, is pick a little part of the pattern each week or every 2 weeks to have finished, and I think then I can get this finished in a lot quicker time than I would have if I was just kind of trying to finish it all at once. I have a feeling that while I don't have a rotation of days, if every couple days I do a different whip, I have a feeling that that's going to work for me the more I do this. Last video I talked about the fact that I had no Christmas stitching to show you. I have a lot of Christmas whips, but no stitching that I had been working on. And I threw out the idea that maybe every week or 2 weeks I would try to do a little bit of Christmas stitching just to keep my hand into it, and then come December not be running around like crazy stitching everything I could and being sick of Christmas at that point. So I pulled out one of my whip projects. I pulled out Christmas Rules by Lizzie Kate. So that's the full part of it. And the one that I am on right now is Give Santa Cookies and Milk. This stitched up really quickly. I'm glad that I grabbed this. Because each one of those is a separate little pattern, it's a great way to put a little time in, add some stitches, and then put it away for a little while. Now this is done on 18 count It was white Ada, but I coffee tea dyed it myself. So this is what we have right now. And so I had the first 4 done, and then it went into the whip pile. So this week I stitched up Give Santa Cookies and Milk. Now in the picture, you'll see Santa was getting pink cookies, and then there were little white buttons on top. Santa in our house always got chocolate chip cookies. So that was the only change that I've made in colors, is I added chocolate chip cookies instead. Otherwise, everything is in the called for DMC. And that one is done. So the next one in the pattern is no pouting. So that's the one I will do next. I think this will be an easy one to do because there's a lot of words again, and the stocking itself doesn't have a lot of color changes, so that should go quickly. It does have a button on it. If you'll notice, I have not done any buttons on here yet, and I don't know if I will. There's a couple places that I could stitch and make changes instead of the buttons, so I might do that. I haven't decided yet. We'll see what it looks like when it's done and where the buttons were placed and if they're really necessary. So I think this will work for my Christmas whip at the moment. Each week I will pick a little section and see if I can get it done. And hopefully in no time I will have the entire piece finished. And this one will be intimidating to FFO, so I really want to try that pumpkin first before I try something as big as this with as much commitment of time and stitching that I put into it. That's it for whips. So last week I talked about a couple of patterns that I had goals for starting, and I didn't start either one of them. I completely threw that out the window and started 2 completely different ones. I don't know why, it just worked out that way. Well, I do know why. So that's a lie. I do know why. So for the Surfside Cottage, remember I had picked that deep blue and I wasn't sure about it, and I'm still not sure about it. So I put that to the side to think about if that's the fabric I want to use for that. So instead of the Surfside Cottage, I pulled out the July Cottage from Country Cottage Needleworks, and I decided to work on that instead. I put January aside. That will be worked on the end of the year for January. I decided not to try to play catch up each month with the current month, but to jump ahead. I don't have all 12 months. I'm not sure I will do all 12 months, but I did like this one. Now this is stitched on 18 count reverse side Country Vintage Mocha. So this is the right side to the mocha. But when I had done the January on the opposite side, I really liked it. And I decided, you know what? I might just do all of them in this reverse side. It's a little bit lighter. It's no variations in color. But the colors of floss seem to come up really well against this one. So that's, I think, what I'm going to do. That's all the called for DMCs so far. I played around with this, trying to figure out if I wanted to change the red. But then I stitched it on here and I liked it. So I went with the called for. Next up will be the house on there. That should be a fun stitch. I'm looking forward to doing that. So that was the first start. The second start was not Widow's Walk by Annie Bees. That one I really have a fabric dilemma about. I don't like anything I have to stitch that pattern on. So I did make one order from a hand dyer for fabrics, and I have a wish list from another place. So I think I'm going to have those 2 orders and then see what comes in and see what I like for that pattern. Because I just really like that pattern and I really feel it needs something a little bit more special than what I've got. So that one's set aside till I find the right fabric. So instead, I still went with the summer theme. Little House Needleworks, Summer ABCs. I know a lot of you have seen these because you've been stitching them. And this one is on the correct side of Country Vintage Mocha, 18 count. I just started this yesterday, and this is what I've got so far. And in fact, last night is all that I stitched. I don't know why I started so close to this edge. I usually give myself about 2 inches. And I didn't do that in this case. I think it'll be fine. I'm just not sure why I did that. The top is fine, but for some reason that edge, I went a little bit close. I am using so far the called for DMCs. I know the red pink is a little bit more pink than you might say for apples. But when I put the colors together on this fabric, I really liked how they worked together. And I didn't necessarily want it the bright primaries, but something a little bit different. So I think I'm gonna keep the called fors. Although as I'm stitching, if there's something that jumps out that I'd rather do color-wise, I certainly might switch it. But at the moment, that is everything that's called for. And those are my 2 starts so far since the last video. So far, like I'm gonna start anything else in the next few days. I really have to work on whips. It's so tempting to start something new. There's something about a blank piece of fabric and getting those first few stitches in that is just so fun. I really enjoy doing that. But I'm gonna hold myself off on that and work on my current whips. And then future. Do I have future stitching plans? Of course, because I always want to be starting something. But what I thought I was going to start, the fabric. It's the fabric dilemmas that get me every time. Although this time is a fabric size. I do have an idea of what fabric I want to use. I got from Cottage Garden this Halloween sampler. I love it. I've seen a couple people on Flosstube stitching it. I've got stamping on the brain from my business. And I really liked it so much that I ordered this without having a clue what I would stitch it on. And then I've been ordering a few picture this plus from 123 Stitch just to get an idea of what they look like. This one is shale. And it's funny, on my screen it was a lot grayer than it is in person. It's actually purpley in person. I don't know if that's gonna show up on the camera so well. But as soon as I saw it, I loved it. And I said, I think this will work really, really nice against the purplish background with all the black words. And even the other colors of the motifs would look good on this. And so I said, oh, I'll just start stitching on this. Well, because I want to try out the colors before I spend a lot of money on them, I only ordered a 12 by 17 inch piece. And this is 18 count. And with 18 count, basically the finished size would be 9 by 9. So I'd be fine on the long way. But because this is only a 12 width, I would only be giving myself 1.5 inches on each side. And I love this fabric so much that I don't know how much border I'd want to give on this one. So I think I'm going to put this piece to the side because I have a feeling I'll have no problem finding other things to stitch on this. And I'm going to order myself a little bit bigger piece from 123 Stitch. And then I can get started on that. So this is going to go in the to-do file. I already have the flosses and it's kitted up, good old Ziploc bag. And I had the fabric I put in and I was all ready to go, but I think I'll wait on that one. So that will be a future start, maybe next month. I did have a little bit of shopping. For right around Valentine's Day, there was a sale at Threads Entwined. This is my second time ordering from her and she's fantastic. Everything comes so nicely packaged and she tries to make sure it doesn't get bent and none of the patterns get ruined. I love how she packages, and as somebody who sends paper products, I really do appreciate the time and effort a business will take to make sure that nothing is harmed along the way, because I've seen, I don't know, my post office, my box, mailbox, some of the things, how those packages get pushed into my box, I can't almost get them out sometimes. So then you worry that everything will be ruined after the postman has pushed it this way and that. But she just did a great job. So I would highly recommend her. Follow her on social media. I follow her on Instagram because she announces her sales. This is the second time I've seen a 25% off sale. And her prices are great to begin with. And then to add a sale to it, it really does make it nice to order. So I'm going to show you a few of the things I ordered, or all the things I ordered. The first one, I did find one of the word plays, and so I picked up February. I am not going to start that right now. That's going to go in the later on to do bin, but now I have it so that I can stitch that later on. Then you're going to see a trend. She had a bunch of the waxing moon designs, and I have Christmas house and winter house already, and I really like their patterns. So I went on a little waxing moon design spree, as you're going to see. First off is the Snowman Trio. They are adorable. I love them. I had to get them, so I ordered those. And then I'd had enough of winter, so I ordered the Patriotic House Trio. I like how there's the 3 designs, whether you want to stitch them together as a double or even singles. Autumn House Trio. I have plans and ideas for these. And then the last one was Halloween House Trio. The last 2 patterns that I ordered, the first one was from Country Cottage Needleworks, Beach House. I think I'm not going to do the words. I am just going to stitch from the waves up. I counted it out, and on 18 count, that would be a 4 by 4.5 inch piece. So it would be like that, which I think would be really cute. And then lastly, I have been wanting to order and try Tiny Modernist for a while now. So I picked up the Halloween calendar. So cute. This is such a substantial, it's cardstock, good cardstock. And the pattern is easy to read, it looks great. I thought this would be really cute. If I found a regular size, like tabletop size tree like that, and then you make a bunch of these as little teeny tiny ornaments and hang them off, I thought that would be so cute, as well as stitching the actual calendar itself. In 18 count, I think I figured out that each little block would be about 1.5 inches. So they'd be tiny, but depending on the size of the tabletop tree, that might work out really nice. So I am really excited to get some more Tiny Modernist. I am impressed with the quality and the ease of reading. I'm looking forward to this one. So apparently I'm starting to think Halloween already. And we haven't even gotten to spring. And that is all that I bought. Although, like I said, I have a huge wish list for Market. And I think I've looked at 3 different places, and I've added stuff from all of them into a wish list. So we will see what I order next and where I order next. It's a mystery to me too. But anyway, I want to thank you so much for watching and coming back for video number 2. And until I see you again, happy stitching. Bye.